I work for an office and we have an 8-week busy season with mandatory overtime, 12 to 14 hours a day. During this time, the company agrees to reimburse us for dinner up to $13 a meal. We just have to submit a claim with our receipts at the end of the busy season. Food options around my work aren't great, so I usually brought my dinner from home. But sometimes I was too tired to cook after a long day, so out of the 8 weeks, I purchased maybe 10 meals. 3 of those meals I spent $13.50, going 50 cents over the limit. This resulted in a whopping $1.50 overage, which my manager said it was no big deal and that I could include on my expense claim. He signed off on it and everything. A few days after I submitted my report, head office emailed me saying they rejected my expense claim and that I could resubmit after I removed the $1.50 overage. I wrote back saying my manager was fine with the $1.50 overage and even signed off on it. And they responded by telling me that they do not allow overages under any circumstances, that the $1.50 must be removed or they wouldn't approve any of my meal expenses. They ended their email with the advice as I should actually read the company policy next time. Fine, they were right and I was wrong. So I decided I'd read the policy very thoroughly before redoing my expense claim. Yes, the policy clearly stated a $13 maximum on purchased meals. Oh, and what's this? The policy also allows a $10 per diem for meals you bring from home. I very happily removed the $1.50 overage and added an additional $300 for the 30 meals I brought from home. I should read the company policy more often. Some of you are asking if I got paid the $300, and the answer is yes. Many are suggesting the person was sincerely trying to help me out, but I'm not 100% sure because they were so snippy in their email. Also, when we were emailed the meal policy at the beginning of busy season, there was no mention of the per diem and no one else in my department knew about it. Either way, I made sure to thank them just in case they were being sincere and I was just too jaded to see it. I'm a type 1 diabetic and I have an insulin pump. When I was in 6th grade, my pump was wired, i.e. it had a tube that went from the pump, which looked a bit like a cell phone to me. So I have to take insulin after I eat, and I had pretty explicitly told all of my teachers that I was diabetic. But this teacher was a bit thick and a stickler for the rules. My class had just gotten back to class after lunch, and we were reading a book out loud. My pump beeped to remind me to take insulin after lunch, and I noticed teacher give me a bit of a dirty look, but I ignored it and whipped out my pump to deliver insulin. The teacher said, "OP, stop texting in class. You know the rules. Please bring your phone to the front and report to detention." My middle school had a very strict no cell phones policy. I was about to protest, but realized this would be an excellent opportunity for some malicious compliance. So with a smug grin on my face, I walk up to the teacher with my pump in my hand, and it is still literally attached to me. I hand her my pump. "What's this cord? Why'd you have a chain for your cell phone?" Me with a deadpan stare. I'm a diabetic, and this is my insulin pump. At this point, her face goes sheet white, and I unclip my pump from my body, a bit of a maneuver because it was on my arm and slightly difficult to reach, and walk out of the class before she can say anything and go directly to detention. When I arrive, I tell the detention officer I was sent for using electronics in class. Before I even finish, a student from my class walks in and says I can come back to class, and the teacher apologizes profusely and never messes with me for beeping or using any device. I think the teacher must have said something along the lines of, "Please don't sue me. Please don't sue me." This didn't happen to me, but my dad, and it's one of my favorite stories he tells. Some years ago, by which I mean 2 or so decades roughly, my dad was at a several-day course to earn some additional qualifications for his job. On the final day, there was going to be a multiple-choice test to actually pass the seminar. On test day, everyone got settled into place, and the teacher announced that he would not go easy on cheaters. You had one strike to be caught trying to copy off of someone else or use a cheat sheet. But if you were caught a second time, you would be immediately thrown out and your score made invalid. Now, this teacher was very old school strict and treating grown working people like unruly school children, and my dad does not like that very much. So my dad proceeds to take the test, and it goes pretty well. When he's through with the questions, there is just one left where he's not sure he's got it right. And he has a free strike after all. So my dad yells out into the class, just calls out, "What's the answer to question 14? Some complete bro elsewhere in the room yells the answer back. My dad fills in the sheet, gets up, walks to the teacher's desk, presumably tries to not trip on the teacher's jaw as it lies on the floor, hands in the test, and leaves the room. To the teacher's credit, he approached my dad afterwards with some begrudging respect. I don't know if he changed his policy afterwards or the tone in which he conveyed it. Hi Reddit, not 100% sure the story belongs here, but I really want to share it with you. Last summer, I worked as an ice cream vendor on the beach of my hometown. Best job I ever had. People were nice to me. I got to work at my tan. It paid pretty well, but most importantly, we were allowed to eat the delicious ice cream in our breaks. One day, I'm serving a man and his son. The man orders a cone with 2 scoops for him and a cone with 1 scoop for the little one. The kid wasn't happy about that and said to his dad that he also wanted 2 scoops. The dad explains that the scoops are pretty big and that 1 will suffice for him. I confirmed this to help the dad, even offering to make it extra big. Still, the kid doesn't budge. Instead, he starts throwing a tantrum, nearly crying how he wanted 2 scoops. The dad, clearly not wanting to ruin his vacation mood, gives up and says to the kid he can have 2 scoops. However, he adds, if you can't finish your ice cream, like I said you wouldn't, no more TV for you for the rest of the vacation. The kid happily agrees, claiming he could eat a whole tub of ice cream. Big mistake, kid. Me, being the petty person that I am, wanted to teach this brat a lesson. I proceed by scooping one of the most gigantic scoops I've ever scooped in my entire scooping career. I put it on the cone. The kid's eyes widen in shock. My scoop goes back for more. I see the kid tremble in disbelief. I scoop the second most gigantic scoop a scooper could scoop and graciously add it to the first one. I hand the monstrosity I've created to the kid, who by now realizes he won't watch TV again this summer. The dad seemed pretty cool with it. He even tipped me a little, which was very rare. All this week, we have a deal going on online where you get half off of all pizzas you order, and we weren't very busy tonight, so I was just about to get off 3 hours early, but decided to serve one last customer who came in after I'd collected my tips, but before I actually clocked out. A little side note, my manager was behind me at the cut table, cutting up the last 4 pizzas for this order. Hello, are you here to pick up? Yes, I am. I ordered online. Okay, what name was on the order? Karen. Not her name, but changed to keep her from knowing if she reads the subreddit. Okay, that'll be the total price. Would you be paying with cash or card? What? Why is it so much? I thought everything was half off. I'm sorry, ma'am. It's only pizzas that are half off. We go back and forth some with her trying to get the price lower, but eventually she demands, then get me the employee discount. I smile as I know this would just make the order cost more. Okay, but I'll have to take off all the other discounts to put it on. She smiles as though she just won a prize. Go ahead and take them off. I take the discount for her ordering online off and give her my own smile as I say, that'll be an even more expensive price. Would you be paying with cash or a card? What? Why is it more expensive? Get me your manager. Manager finishes the last pizza and comes around the heating rack. I'm the manager and I've listened to everything that's been said. Tells you how loud this woman was because the oven is running all the time and it's pretty loud when you're right next to it. Suffice it to say, the woman ended up paying the higher price. So you could say that OP gave her a pizza his mind. I was around 13 or so and my brother is 3 years older than me. I woke up one morning to my brother huffing and bellowing and generally being a jerk. Didn't take very long to realize he'd locked himself out of his room. I offered to help him, but as soon as I did, he turned around and snapped at me to F off. Oh, okay, sure. I went inside the kitchen and had breakfast, eating slowly and watching the insanity unfold. My brother is stalking from his room to the back of the house out the back door, circles around outside to wrestle with his window, then to the front of the house and comes in through the front door and paces back and forth in front of his door again. No matter what he tries, he can't get inside. Are you sure you don't want help? Get effing lost. I go into the living room and boot up his PlayStation, which he left in the living room, and play his games for a few hours. He's so preoccupied with doing his circuits outside, around and through the house, out the back door and in the front that he doesn't even notice. Lunchtime rolls around. I ask him if he's absolutely certain he doesn't want help. Once again, I get a slew of expletives. So I go back inside, make a sandwich, grab a glass of orange juice, and go back outside to sit on the bonnet of the car and watch as he does his circuits and wrestles with the window. I enjoy my lunch and go back inside to play more of his games. Hours later, the sun is going down and I've had my fill of games, and I go out to check on how he's doing. He's standing defeated, staring helplessly at his window like it's betrayed him. So, how are you doing? You managed to get in yet? He doesn't hear the sarcasm. He looks like he's about to cry. No, look, I'm sorry about shouting at you earlier, but I locked myself out. I gave his arm a comforting pat and nodded. Yeah, I heard about that. Would you like some help? I don't know what you could do, but yeah, I've tried everything. Thanks, though. Oh, it's no problem. But have you tried this yet? I pulled the top of his window down where he'd been trying to wrestle it up this whole time. The house is old, and the windows have been painted over many a time. So much so that everyone but me forgets that once upon a time you actually could open the windows from the top even if it was locked from the inside. The look on his face as I walked away makes me wish I'd been wearing sunglasses or walked away polishing my nails on my shirt. It's been 20 years since then, and that jaw drop was so satisfying it makes me smile even to this day. I waited all day for my apology, and dang, it felt good when I finally got it.